Write the coordinates of the points. In this slide, we will learn how to write the coordinates of points that lie on the x-axis or on the y-axis. Look up at point P. P lies on the x-axis. So we just try it lies on the x-axis. It has got two coordinates, the x-coordinate and the y-coordinate. If you look up here, the x-coordinate is 3, but the y-coordinate, if you see, is 0. Now for the point Q. Q, here is Q, and it lies on the y-axis. So we write down y-axis. It has got two coordinates, the x and y, and you've noticed that the y-coordinate is 2 and the x-coordinate will be 0. So the coordinates of Q are 0, 2. Now we go to point T, and here is point T. It lies on the x-axis, and if you look at P, you'll find its x-coordinate is -1, but its y-coordinate is 0. So T has coordinates -1, 0. Now for the point S, here is your point S, and S lies on the x-axis. It has got two coordinates, x and y. You'll see the x-coordinate is -4, while the y-coordinate is 0. If you carefully observe at all the points, P lies on the x-axis. Its y-coordinate is 0. T lies on the x-axis. Its y-coordinate is 0. S lies on the x-axis. Its y-coordinate is 0. So from this we can conclude that points on x-axis, for all the points on the x-axis, y is equal to 0. Now we have points also lying on the y-axis. Like Q lies on the y-axis, and here the x is 0. So for points on y-axis, we can say x equal to 0. Let's go ahead and write the coordinates of M. Now M, we know, lies on the y-axis, and because it lies on the y-axis, its x will be 0. So x is 0 and y is -3. Plot the points A, 2, 0. Now in this we have seen that y equal to 0, therefore it lies on the x-axis. So 2, 0 would be on the x-axis, we said, so it would be here. This would be A, 2, 0. Now for the next one, B, 0, 2. So we see that the x is equal to 0. If x equal to 0, it lies on the y-axis. So we will put it on the y-axis. 0, 2 will be here. So we name this as B, 0, 2. Then we go for the next one, 0, -5. So here we see that the x is 0. If x is 0, it lies on the y-axis. So here the vertical is the y-axis, 0, -5, and 0, -5 is here on the y-axis. That's point C, and it is 0, -5. For the next one is 0, 0. X is 0 and y also is 0, so it lies on both the axes. And the line, that point that lies on both the axes here is the origin. We mark that as D. Then for the next one, E, 0, 5. The x is equal to 0, so it lies on the y-axis. So it must be 0, 5 would be here. that would be E, 0, 5. And for the last one, F equal to minus 6, 0. So here we see that the Y is 0. If Y is 0, it must be lying on the x-axis, and the point will be out here, F. F minus 6, 0. So to repeat again, if x equal to 0, the point lies on the y-axis, and if y is equal to 0, the point lies on the x-axis. This is the Cartesian plane with two axes. The horizontal axis is called the x-axis and the vertical is called the y-axis. These two axes divide the entire Cartesian plane into four parts. We call this first as the first quadrant. Here we call this a second quadrant. We go anti-clockwise. Then the third quadrant. And in the end we have the fourth quadrant. Now all points lying in the first quadrant will have the x positive and the y also positive. The ones lying in the second quadrant will have their x negative while the y positive. The ones lying in the third quadrant, the x will be negative and the y also will be negative. And lying in the fourth quadrant, the x will be positive and the y will be negative. Let's try to understand why this is so. The points lying in the first quadrant, you will find that their x will be arising from the positive part of the x-axis and the y from the positive. So x will be positive, y also will be positive. When we come to the second quadrant, the x will arise from here. This will be the x. And the y, which is negative, and the y are from here, which is all positive. Therefore, the second quadrant is negative. The x is negative, the y is positive. For the third quadrant, the x are all negative and the y are also negative. So it is negative, negative will be the third quadrant. For the fourth quadrant, the x will be from here. So x will be positive and the y will be negative. State the quadrant in which each of the following points lie. Now we take the first point, say A. The x coordinate is positive and the y also is positive. So positive, positive means it will lie in the first quadrant. Let's take up the next one. B. The x coordinate is plus and the y coordinate is also plus. So this is plus, plus means also lie in the first quadrant. Now let us take the next, say C. The x coordinate is minus, the y coordinate is plus. So minus, plus. And if you see minus, plus is in the second quadrant. Now for the next sum, say D. 2, 2, x is plus and y is also plus. So positive, positive lies in the first quadrant. For E, x is negative and y is also negative. Negative, negative lies in the third quadrant. Now for the next one, we have F. In F we see x is positive, y is negative. Positive, negative lies in the fourth quadrant. Now for G, x is positive, y is negative. Positive, negative again lies in the fourth quadrant. For H, minus 5, x is negative, y is also negative. The x coordinate negative, y coordinate also negative. So it will lie in the third quadrant. Now for I, the x is negative, the y is positive. So negative, positive lies in the second quadrant. And for the last one, negative, negative. So negative, negative lies in the third quadrant. Suppose we have a point, say P, which is -2, -1. So it is negative and negative. Negative, negative we see lies in the third quadrant. Suppose we have a point Q, -2 + 5. That is negative, positive. Negative, positive will lie in the second quadrant. So just to revise this, we have 4 quadrants, 1, 2, 3 and 4. In the first quadrant we have positive, positive. In the second quadrant we have negative, positive. In the third quadrant both the coordinates are negative. In the fourth quadrant we have positive, negative. Which of the following points belong to the x-axis? We have already done this earlier. We know for x-axis, for all the points on the x-axis, y equal to 0. So our x-axis is the horizontal axis, 0, 1, 2, then we have -1, -2, but this point will be 1, 0, this point will be 2, 0, this point will be -1, 0, this point will be -2, 0, and so on. For the x-axis, the y coordinate is 0. Now look at point A. A is y 0? Yes, it is 0. So it will lie on the x-axis. For point B, the y is not 0, y is 3. So it will not lie on the x-axis. Next point, 4 - 1, it will not lie. Look at the D. Here the x is 0, so it does not lie on the x-axis, it lies on the y-axis. Look at 0, 0. Here y is 0, the y coordinate, so it will lie on the x-axis. Here again this 2 will lie on the x-axis. Here we have y is 0, so if y is 0 it lies on the x-axis. Here the x is 0, have you seen? So it does not lie on the x-axis. Here we have y is 0. If y is 0, it will lie on the x-axis. Here we have x equal to 0. So it does not lie on the x-axis. So if the y is 0, the point lies on the x-axis. Which of the following points belong to the y-axis? Now our y-axis is the vertical axis. This is the x-axis and this is the y-axis, and the points on the y-axis like 0, it will be 0, 1, then the next one will be 0, 2, then it will be 0, 3 and so on. Here will be 0, -1, 0, -2, 0, -3. So for the points on the y-axis, we have x equal to 0. So look at the first point L. Is x 0? No, x is 5. So it does not lie on the y-axis. Look at the point M. Is the x 0? Yes, x is 0 here. So it lies on the y-axis. For N, check for x. Is it 0? No, x is not equal to 0. So it will not lie on the y-axis. Next point, check for x. X is equal to 0. So it lies on the y-axis. Here, check for x. X is not equal to 0. So it doesn't lie on the y-axis. Next one, Q. Here, x equal to 0. So it lies on the y-axis. For the next, look, check only for x. X is not equal to 0. does not lie on the y-axis. Next one, we have here x equal to 0, so it lies on the x-axis. Next, here again, x is not equal to 0, it is a, so it will not lie on the y-axis. Here x is equal to 0, so it will lie on the y-axis. Let's go ahead now and write the coordinates of the points on the x-axis. Here we have the first point, and the coordinate of this will be 1, 0. Then we have the next point 2, the coordinates will be 2, 0. Then we have the next, say 3, and 3 it will be 3, 0. Then we have the point 4, and 4 will be 4, 0. Then we have the point 5 and 5, 0. Then we have the point 6, and that will be 6, 0. So for the x-axis, your y is always 0. Let's go on to the negative side. So we have this point -1, and the coordinates of this will be -1, 0. Then we have the point -2, and the coordinates of -2 will be -2, 0. See, throughout we see that the y is 0. See, we have the point -5. Coordinates of -5 will be -5, 0. Now we go to the y-axis. The y-axis, suppose we have this point 4, and the coordinates of them will be 0, 4. We take up another point, say here we have 2, and the coordinates of 2 will be 0, 2. Then we take up another point down, say -2, and the coordinates will be 0, -2. For y-axis, the x is always 0. Then we'll take up a point, say -3, and for -3 it will be 0, -3. If we take up the point -5, and that will be 0, -5. So if I tell you point A is 0, 5, on which axis does it lie? We know here the x is equal to 0, so it lies on the y-axis. If I have another point B, and now I say it is 5, 0. Now here I see that the y equal to 0, and hence it lies on the x-axis. In general, if suppose I have a point, say P, which is 0a, on which axis will it lie? We know the x is equal to 0, so it will lie on the y-axis. And if I take up another point, say Q, which is say x, 0. Now here I know the y is 0, so it will lie on the x-axis. Let's observe at all the points in the first quadrant. Look at A. The x is positive, the y is positive. In B also, x positive, y positive. C also, x positive, y positive. So all the points in the first quadrant, positive, positive. Let's get on to the second quadrant. In the second quadrant, we see for P, negative, positive. Q, negative, positive. Here also R, negative, positive. So for the second quadrant, all the points will have negative, positive. And let's get on to the third quadrant. And we are now in the third quadrant. Let's examine the points. Negative, 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 negative. So here all the points will be negative, negative will be in the third quadrant. Now for the fourth quadrant, let's examine the points. Positive, negative, positive, negative, positive, negative. So the points here will be positive, negative.